Hey, I'm your host, Scott Dr. Jakes Goldfine, with another special edition of Where'd You Get Your Funk From? This is the fifth Jam Fans Forum in which expert panelists provide their top picks in various funk music categories. This time around, we're taking on the sexy and romantic topic of the five greatest funk ballads of all time. Joining me are three esteemed Jam fans. Ladies first, and so we welcome media professional, singer-songwriter, and avid music buff, Juliana Jai-Bolden, who we also thank for finally bringing some much-needed feminine sensibility to the panel. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm like, gender issues aside, you couldn't have a better group of folks gathered to talk about this today. I know I'm familiar with all of you and can't wait to see your selections. See here, however we do here. I'm a newbie, so if I get some stuff wrong, y'all just put me back in line.
All good.
Well, we're usually gentle with our hazing, so no worries. It's also great to welcome back music and culture journalist and liner notes master A. Scott Galloway. Welcome back, Scott.
Always a pleasure.
Finally, it's a treat to again have music scholar, author, and history of funk radio show host Ricky Vincent. Hey, Ricky.
Hey, wonderful to be back in the mix, Scott.
Thank you, everybody, again for participating and keeping the funk alive. And the criteria set forth for this particular show is in the description, so I'm not going to go through all that. Check it out. But before we dive in, I do want to briefly touch on each panelist's personal selection methodology for this funk ballads category. And so I'll let Juliana start off and just give us a little bit of, how she guided to her picks.
Thank you, Scott. I have the most unscientific methodology going down right here. How deep was I feeling it? That's the methodology. And uh, I would say, in all seriousness, when I think of classic funk, I think of things that happened in the late 60s through the 70s, early 80s. And that's generally my parameters. I would have to defer to one of these other more studied folks if that was actually a case as in a peer-reviewed study. But for me, I if it was something that I would imagine that Don Cornelius would have been playing in between the up tempos, then it qualified.
Fair enough. Sounds good. Ricky, what guided your picks?
Oh man, I was just soaking in what Juliana was saying about this because it's all personal. It's how you take it. Um, but there were times when I heard a band that just went for something that was slow and low down, but still had as much power as what was drawing me to the band in the first place. And in rock, I guess they call them power ballads, uh, but we call them funk ballads. And so my first take was going in that direction. So we'll get some noisy ones, but it doesn't. It's kind of wide open, and that's all good.
I hear you. Thank you, Ricky. Scott, what guided your picks?
I was guided by the North Star of my dear departed friend, Lady T, Tina Marie. And I've said this before, she used to have a very specific thing where she said, there is such a thing as ballad funk. And so I really looked towards songs, not just with funk musicians or funk bands, but any artist that created a song that was really a funky ballad, not a sweet ballad, not a churchy ballad. No, it was a funk ballad. And nine times out of 10, that means that there was some drum and bass going on. And nine times out of 10, it's a very sexy, sensual song, not a I love you from the bottom of my heart kind of song. When you start getting funk, song's sexy, usually.
That is so apropos. And I think it reflects, what I did is I took the enterprise of writing a definition for how I see funk ballads. I don't know that I've really seen that before. So some of what you talked about is in there. I'm just going to read it if that's cool. Um, what I came up with was produced by funky, or funk capable artists These songs are tempo, and often sensual, deeply soulful with emotive lead vocals while maintaining funk groove musical elements. Examples of that are prominent bass or plucking, pronounced drums, guitar solos, arresting background vocals and harmonies, unconventional and creative soundscapes, and extended running times. These songs are generally not overly sentimental, sappy, poppy, or cliched in lyrics, feel, or sound, and frequently are more rhythmic than melodic, yet they still touch the soul and stick to the mind of listeners. These songs are typically ideal for very intimate body on body slow dancing or in house party vernacular grinding. That, my friends, is a funk ballad. At their best, for me, they give me goosebumps. So,
Feeling that.
yeah.
Good definition.
All right. Well, with that, let's get into it, shall we? So I think, again, let's let Juliana do our first one. So tell us what you got for your first pick and your reason behind that.
Hey, I get to go first on this one, and I love this because this song means the absolute world to me. Hang on one second. I'm a vinyl fanatic. I don't have quite as many crates as A. Scott Galloway, but what I got is good. What I got for you is Sparkle from, I think, the very first Cameo album. I'm getting the no sign. See, that's where I need to be around my more studied peers. So apparently, can I say an early Cameo album?
Yeah.
Oh, I love the head nods. Okay, great. I'm in good company. So, what it is about Sparkle is that there are all the pronounced drums. It's the feel, Scott talked about these drums. Uh, what's that? Scott Goldfine talked about these drums. Hey, Scott Galloway talked about there is a such thing as ballad funk. And when Ricky talked about how personal this thing is, it was an easy call. This is legitimate, my favorite funk ballad of all time, because if you put anything else on, there's a lot that can match the groove. There's a lot that can match the quality of the playing. And at that point, we'll be comparing apples to oranges. So if you're an apple person, you might prefer one thing than the orange person, does not care for. But what you will never say is that the playing is not air pocket tight quality. The tone of the bass is absolute classic. And the actual most funk ballads, in my opinion, they are a holdover from the doo-wop era, because there's a sort of a sway, a soul step that folks did during doo-wop that you can still do to a funk song. And that, what I think I'm describing, is soul. So the last thing I'll say about Sparkle, and I think one of the Scots need to help me out with this, or you Ricky, the vocal. What was surprising to me, I think, when I look back on the funk that my parents played and I came up on, is funk was always associated with this deep sense of fun. The earliest funk songs, if you said what was the first funk songs I might have heard, it might have been Get Up on the Downstroke, something like that, and it's dance floor, lightweight, really good feeling stuff. But the older I got, I heard how heavy it was and what they were saying, and how deeply connected the ballads and the dance floor songs that you sweat to. It's the same funk, and there's a quality in the vocals that I did not realize was there. That man was singing his butt off. I'm not exactly sure who was singing Sparkle in Cameo. Can y'all help me
It
out?
was Anthony Lockett. Yeah, Anthony Lockett.
So I still have a lot to learn about Cameo, but what I do know is that their ballads move me in a certain way that I have come to appreciate for the quality of the vocal, the quality of the playing, now that I'm a more educated ear. But the personal aspect of the joy and the romantic feel of, well, I was too young to be grinding on nobody, but I was dreaming about what I was going to do when I was old enough to go grind on somebody,
Sounds good.
those things are something that are so timeless that I think we could introduce a whole new audience to Sparkle and have them not realize how old the song really is. So Sparkle, that's my number one.
Awesome pick. I think we all love that one. And it was an alternate for me, actually. So,
Hey,
yeah. I think I think that's their third album.
So
Secret
it was their
Omen.
fourth album, and what makes
Yeah,
it
fourth.
sound so unique is the bass player Aaron Mills arrived, and he put this crisp, tight '80s clean thing in there. So the dance hit on that album, Juliana, was "I
I
Just Want to
just
Beat."
want the beat. What?
Right,
You want the beat, the beat.
right. It's locked tight. And so you know that. But before that, they did 3 albums, and it was a little more of the sloppy R&B vibe. Rigor Mortis was a jam they did, and Funk, I was into that, and It's Serious and Insane. And so those were a lot of fun, and they had the down tempo also. But it was like a whole new band arrived when Secret Omen came out, and they had that tighter, cleaner, crisper sound. And I was rocking with them, and then Sparkle just floored me. I was like, wait a minute, you are singing better than all these ballad groups that are on the radio, and you whooping them, and they can't touch the funk that you're doing. That's what hit me.
Hey, I feel all of that. And just to your point about I Just Want to Be, I Just Want to Be was the song that my me and some of my cousins discovered because that was the one that it was usually on when mama and daddy said, "Get on up and show them that dance" at the cookout. So, so I distinctly remember my very first performance gig probably being on somebody's picnic table at a cookout to I Just Want to Be. So there's a lot of emotion, connected to Secret Omen for me, along with Sparkle.
Yeah, we got to keep moving. I think you're going to find that everything we talk about, we could talk for like hours on because we're so passionate about it and we'd love to, but we got to keep moving on so we're not too long on the show. But before we jump to the next pick, Scott, did you want to add any 2 cents about Sparkle or?
No, I think it's all been said. Cameo had a few really classic ballads, and that is certainly probably funkiest, among the funkiest of their ballads. And so great first pick for Julianne J.
All right, way to kick us off. Yeah. Ricky, I know you've been distracted with the Sparkle talk, but you got to dig into yours now.
Oh man, I don't have all my vinyl handy, but I do have this, baby Baba. I do have
Uh,
this. And
Yes.
I do remember when I first bought this. Well, there's a B-side. I was always bugging on that bike. I've never seen that bike again. I never seen them on stage with it or whatever. But the B-side of the album had what to me was the first funk ballad I had ever heard, and that was "I'd Rather Be With You." And I never really understood funk as anything other than Bigfoot and stomping. And then here comes this Bigfoot and stomping ballad. Wait a minute. And I'm like, wait. And then he starts saying all this liquid language stuff he's doing. And I'm like, wait a minute. Am I allowed to hear this? It's for adults only. What am I allowed? And so it knocked me out. It rocked me. And I started gobbling everything Bootsy did, but he would always play that or a live version, and others stuck to it like that was the legendary song. And there are others. I could pick 5 Bootsy ballads for my list,
that part.
but that one's number one, and it's on the one, and it's the first one, and it kind of sets the tone.
Bravo.
Yeah, I think with Bootsy, that's the challenge really is picking which one. So you went with the first one, which makes total sense.
Yeah.
Breathe.
And then the live versions are always kind of variations on that.
And that whole side is just killer with the slow stuff.
Yeah. Vanishing Our
Physical love, vanish in our sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
All right. Any further comments on that or move on to Scott?
Oh,
Can't
I
argue
was
with.
expecting to hear that one. Somebody was going to pick it. So totally expected. That is a 100% funk ballad.
Hey, real quick thing, that's the one that also became the Adina Howard flip, right?
I think so.
Which song?
I'll be the freak until the day, until the
Oh,
dawn.
Freak Like Me. Freak, yeah, the Freak Like Me, I think was that the name of that song? Yeah.
Some
Oh, the chorus. Until the day, until the dawn, which goes to, yeah, exactly.
Good call. Yeah.
Rather be with you. Da, 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 da.
Beyonce did a kind of a one to be with you. It was just a hook that never dies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Adina and her people funked it up. That's why it took me a second to go, oh yeah, that's right.
that's a
All right.
whole other mindset for a whole nother show, or funk songs that hip hop heads discovered through hip hop.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You may get to that. That would be a good topic.
And basically, I don't want to interrupt, but basically, big picture, all these funk ballads we picking, you could put a double time drum track on top and have a whole different song, but you have all the vocals and all the music. I'm just saying that just occurred to me. My head's about to explode.
He
All
had to say it.
Out the doubt.
Thanks, Ricky. All right, we're off to a fast start here, and I'd rather be with Scott Galloway right now for his pick.
Hey.
Number one for me, as soon as this topic was brought up, was again my people, partially from Kentucky, Lexington, Kentucky, and Muskegon, Michigan combo New Birth. And it's the title track of this album. It's been a long time since that. This is a quadraphonic sealed copy for you
Wow.
heads. But since I don't have any pictures of the band, it did end up on their best of. So I wanted to share that one too. This is an amazing, amazing, sexy, powerful song that was written by James Baker, musically, the keyboard player, and Melvin Wilson, who was a primary lyricist, co-producer in the band, both of them band members. The lead singer is Leslie Wilson. As soon as you hear this song, I mean, from the first downbeat, it's like, boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's just hard funk. The theme of the song is a reconciliation, a reunion. It's been such a long time since I saw you. How long has it been? Leslie's getting his Mac on. You got a little jazz guitar happening. And as with most New Bird songs, it has incredible dynamics, which means it continues to build showtime wise. The horns get to come in. They've got strings on this one. And even though Leslie is known because he came from the church for taking things to church, he's basically making sex a spiritual experience on this song. This is two people getting back together. They've been missing each other, and the vibe is there, the chemistry. It's amazing. The bass and drums, bass was the great Leroy Taylor, who's no longer with us. And the drums is my very, very dear friend, Robin Russell. Super tight bass and drums lock on that. What can I say? I did the liner note essay for this project here, Very Best of New Birth Inc. And I was so proud to get to know all of the then surviving members of the group. This is in the early 90s. So I interviewed everybody, and man, I love Melvin. Man. Melvin told me that that music started off as some music that they would just come on stage with. It had no lyrics, something that Baker came up with for them to kind of take the stage and be badass. And then one night on the tour bus, Melvin woke up with a start, and he said that all the lyrics came to him, this whole reconciliation story. And like I said, Leslie Wilson takes it all the way out there. There's great lead and background vocal give and take. Hang on, hang on, hang on. Been too long. hoo, 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 and Leslie just killing it. So when I think of funk ballads, that was the very, very first one. It's sexy, it's funky, it's hardcore, um, just a powerful piece of music. And that's my number one.
Good stuff.
I think definitely you talked about the way it crescendos, builds. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that's such a characteristic of these best funk ballads, and the Funketeers, maybe better than anybody, know how to bring it up like that.
Oh, yeah. And in that song, they bring it up like two, three, four times. It's like they take it all the way up to a peak and then they bring it back down and up, down, and then it does end on a resolve. So it's very simulated sex, a lot of it. It really is, not to be or nothing, but that's just what it is. And I love when bands are able to do that within the music and make you feel it. That just you really feel, and it's not a duet, so it's just Leslie singing to the lady, but it's you have the background vocals happening. The background vocalists were Londy Wiggins, Alan Fry, and Melvin. Melvin was always the arranger of the background vocals, and I think Harvey Fuqua assisted with that as well. I want to look at one other thing in the credits. Yeah, and Baker, like I said, he's the one that came up with that music first, so he is credited as the arranger of that track. Very, very powerful piece.
Did you get to pick the songs on that best of?
Pretty much, pretty much. Somebody else, David McLeese, who worked for Rhino, has a credit with me for repertoire selection. I really don't remember what he contributed or if whatever he contributed was something I was already going to put on the collection. But that was one of my very first. I did not get production credit. Production credit went to Paul Williams in New York. And I always wished that I could have been in New York for the mastering sessions because I really had some ideas about how I wanted the last 5 or 6 songs to flow into each other, just telling a story. And it's been a long time, was right at the beginning of that. And then you had Until It's Time for You to Go. You had Wildflower and you had Dreamer. No, it was, I won't go into all those details. But I had the sequence. It's the sequence that's on that CD, but I had segue ideas that did not. But yeah, almost all of that is my choices. 2 Nightlighters tunes, New Birth, and then one song by Love, Peace, and Happiness. That's why it's called New Birth Inc. It was all 3 groups that were affiliated with New Birth.
Bring it.
Excellent. All right, Scott, great pick, man. So I guess it's now on me to just round us out for the number 1 pick.
Yes,
And
sir.
of course, the danger of going last and being so magnanimous about that is that, I can get usurped by Ricky in this case, which I did. So my first pick was going to be Telephone Bill, but I'm going to pivot and move to a track by a person or a group that we haven't talked about yet. And hopefully you can see this. If one of you have this album, feel free to grab it. But I'm going with Confunction from the Candy album. And that is Let Me Put Love on Your Mind.
Woo, great.
Killer track, the way it opens up and just has that soaring lead guitar that comes in, and that melody is so indelible. The vocals with Felton Pilot, who also wrote it and sings on it. He sings, I guess it's probably it's like some falsetto and some maybe alto or tenor or whatever in there. And the guitar throughout is just killer, man. The way they bring it together with a jamming guitar like that and such a powerful, sweeping feel to the music is like something maybe that the blues guys would do. The way they got guitar into R&B, it's just so seamless and perfect. The the choral vocals are just awesome too. And then the dramatic synth strings that they have in there in the background. And they have that waterfall synth effect. There it is. Thank you, Scott. That waterfall synth effect that just kind of and then goes into it, and you get the guitar and the vocals, transitions. Michael Cooper on guitar, and I think the Isley Brothers definitely influenced this track, but Confunction is another one of those groups. Funk, of course, is in their name, and they could bring it, but I don't know that anybody was better at funk ballads than Confunction. I mean, they were about as good as you can get in that realm, and it was hard for me to pick because I also had, Let's Make It Last and Love's Train, but to me, this one is the ultimate. Let me put love on your mind, and Juliana had one there, so love it.
Yeah, that song I got turned on to by my dear departed friend Lee Cadena. Came over to my house one day and we were in the garage and he said, "Man, have you heard this?" Now, I had the album, but I really just had it for Chase Me. And I hadn't really gotten all off into the album. But he played that song for me in a garage, so it had a lot of echo, and that guitar just screaming, man, wow, incredible. That is my favorite Confunction ballad. So
Yeah, like we talked about Cameo, they had, I Just Want to Be on that same record as Sparkle. This had Chase Me on the same record with Let Me Put Love on Your Mind. I mean, incredible. And Candy's my favorite Confunction album as well. So, yeah, I felt like they peaked on that one.
that's pretty early for them, wasn't it?
I want to say, is that the third record, Ricky?
That's their third Mercury album. They had
Yeah.
another up in Nowhere Land before that. But
Yeah. I mean, they crossed over a little more after that. But for me, in terms of their really gritty funk and just hard ballad sound, yeah.
So I took the one, you took that, I had that one. Anyway, it was, yeah.
Touche, my friend. All right. Let's keep it moving. So we're going to go back to Juliana for pick number 2. What do you got for us?
Man, I see how this goes. You got to have backups for your backups with this crew. I have been lovingly usurped because my number 2 was about to be Love's Train. So I'm gonna pivot since we have so dutifully given Confunction their flowers. And I'm gonna go out on a bit of a limb. I was trying to stay in the late 60s, 70s and keep it real classic, but somebody just wouldn't let me because I adore him. Until the end of time, I truly adore you. You are my heart and mind. I think if we're talking about funk, some people might not understand why Prince has to be in this conversation because they know Prince Purple Rain. They associate him with pop. They associate him with new wave infused R&B to an extent, but they don't necessarily think of George Clinton, uh, Ohio players, Prince. They know that Prince is influenced by, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he is an essential when it comes to talking about funk lineage. Because if we talk about James Brown and Clinton and shoot, Bill and George for that matter, other subject, Sly Stone and all of the wonderful people, BT Express, all of the wonderful folks that led up to this man's ascension. You can hear where he sits in funk, not only on Adore, but if anybody want to come for me, I'll just put on Housequake and make all y'all jump up and down. So the other thing about the Sign of the Times, this wonderful 2 album set, is we also have, um, where did it go? One of the most overlooked Prince songs, which is maybe funk influenced enough to mention Forever in My Life. And I'll just stop there so we can keep it moving because I'm chatty enough as it is, and I done took out a 2 album Prince record, and so that this could really go somewhere for me that we don't even need to be for the next 5 hours. Adore.
Yeah. On that album, I think that the funkiest love song ballad is actually if is this the one with If I Was Your Girlfriend? That on that
Is
album?
that it? Wait a minute. Wait, wait,
It's on
wait.
there.
Hold
Yeah.
on. Educate. Wait. Isn't that a mid-tempo? Mid-tempo versus ballad. This was a thing for me. Why is that a ballad to you and not a mid-tempo?
I think
Wait.
because of the way that he sings it, because it is a ballad, you know, If I Was Your Girlfriend, it's a deep lyric. He's in his falsetto. There's a groove happening.
It's
But
intimate.
ballad to me does not necessarily mean slow tempo. It's just it's a love song, and it's you know, I mean, it's not slamming, you know, it's not housequake, but you know what I'm saying is it's not playing the sunshine or whatever. But If I Was Your Girlfriend sits in a really nice pocket that is sexy. And everything he's talking about, all the scenarios, that would be the one that I would pick from that album as a truly funk ballad. Adore is like old school, soulful, churchy R&B ballad, you know, pouring his heart out. But it is in
100% Italian.
a nice pocket though.
You know, Scott, you bring up like an interesting subject. I was going to bring it up actually, is that, you know, in defining a funk ballad, you know, where do you do a cutoff with like what seems more mid-tempo? Because I was going through tracks and I was kind of struggling with that. You know, even for me, like Love's Train seemed to almost like it was getting mid-tempo, Yearning for Your Love and Attack Me With Your Love by Cameo. And some of
Mm.
these, you know, seem like they're sort of like tweeners, you know?
Cleaners. Cool
Yeah.
out for the sake of love. That Ozzy Brothers. It's well, yeah, it's a ballad, but Ozzy Brothers got two or three subterranean levels of down low ballad.
Did you just say subterranean, sir?
Yeah, they was all the way under. Yeah,
Say
Yeah.
subterranean.
We try to expand vocabularies in Jam Fans Forum as well. So,
Expanded vocabularies, hearts, and minds.
all right. Well, good pick, Juliana. And you know what? That one is probably my wife's favorite as far as we're big into Prince. And she's big on lyrics. I'm big on music. And she loves Adore. So,
Shout out to wifey. Good ears.
yeah. All right, Rick, you ready for number 2?
yeah, but Scott brought up the Tina thing, and it opened up a whole kind of river rapids raw soul. But I figured maybe others have gone there. So I'm gonna pull back and
Do you, brother?
and go for one that always messed with me. And this was from the Average White Band.
Mm.
And they did a song called A Love of Your Own. And that was from, see, that's what I'm talking about.
That was my next one.
The atmospheric intro, and then the two thumping, icy tight funk tracks, I'm the One and Love Your Life. And they didn't have to do the lowdown ballad. They didn't have to do that. But boom, they dropped in that note. And they're like, oh, snap. These white boys all up in this one. I was bugged out when I heard that. I was like,
Yeah,
wait.
man.
I mean, and I trusted them because they did Schoolboy Crush, and so they understood the one, they understood No Fear of Funk, but to come like that, I was like, oh snap! And it had all the classic, soul funk ballad tricks and techniques, and the saxophone breaking out, and the vocals building. And it's like, that's what these guys are for. This is what Alan Gorey, that's what these guys are here to do. Lay it out like that. And I used to just study that song. I was like, how did they? First, it was like, how could they even do that? And then I was like, whoa, this is it. It just established that album, but all the tracks on side A established that album as just an advanced level of work, of 70s work, of funk album work, everything. And they were just so chill about it. They said, we're not here to ring bells about it, but this is what we do. Soul searching. So it was a masterpiece for me. And the way it faded into
Queen of
Music
my soul.
is the queen of my soul. You got to be on just a creative ride that just won't stop to do a whole record like that. So I was bugged out about it. And so every time, every live performance, I was looking for what they gonna do, how they gonna do it, what's gonna happen, how are they gonna drop a bomb with this one. They seem to hold back, and to me, I'm still waiting for like the big thunderous rendering of that. They have a bunch of recordings because they still tour after 50 years. I think last year they said this is our final, and they got other people in it. And looking at it, it was written by this guy, not in the band, Ned Downey. You might know Scott.
Yeah. It was co-written by Hamish Stewart, who is a member of the band, with Ned Doheny, and they wrote that song, two guitars, middle of the night, up in the hills. They were just fooling around, and next thing they knew, they composed this very philosophical lyric about love. The sooner you give, the sooner you get to have a love of your own. It's a masterpiece. That whole album is their best album. Soul Searching is their masterpiece, recorded and conceived over 2 weeks in the studio, Atlantic Record Studio in New York. But yeah, Love of Your Own, man. You got me. That I mean, I have songbook, and of course, I have the album, the original vinyl, and signed by all six.
Check it out.
I love
Wow.
this album, and
Nice.
I love that song. And they are now no more. There is no more Average White Band. But earlier this year, or late last year, they did their final show. There is no other version of the band. They'd been around for 50 plus years in different incarnations, and the founding leader, Alan Gorey, decided it was time to shut it down. No more AWB, but man, what a legacy.
Indeed.
Be recognized.
Thing is about these funk ballads, and I remember back in the day, at the house parties and everything, songs like that would come on, and just the most gangster like guys would just like mellow out and just kind of swoon to it. I mean, they would conquer anybody.
Right.
Yeah, man.
All right, Scott, what do you got for us? You're got a pivot, it looks like. So
Yeah, at the pivot, but it's all right. It's time for a lady. And this lady is not associated with funk on any kind of a regular level, but she did this one tune. Miss Minnie Riperton, entitled Baby, This Love I Have, which once again starts with the bass and drums. Boom,
Boom.
boom, boom, boom. Mm, mm. It's just so cold-blooded, and it's a sexy song. Larry Carlton was the arranger for all of that. He's the guitar player. Drums and bass was Jim Gordon on drums and Ed Brown on bass. The song was written by Minnie with her husband Dick Rudolph and the late great Leon Ware, my buddy. Such a groove all the way through. Even a little funny ass background vocals that Dick, Richard and Leon do. Baby, baby. They're just back there. They sound like they've had about 3 full glasses of wine. Baby, baby. It was just improvised, A very soulful tune, man. I just always thought it was very tastefully funky. It grooves hard. It rises. It comes back down to a breakdown to that same groove that they started off with. And Minnie never had any problem coming with the kittenish sensuality. So I love Baby This Love I Have. It's been covered a few times by different artists. And yeah, Minnie Riperton.
That's a great one.
It's one of the building blocks of hip hop in some regards as well. So shout out to all of the folks who keep making opportunities for new generations to discover Baby This Love. Yeah, thank you, Scott. That's a beast of a song.
Absolutely.
And I discovered that after I bought the album because
yes.
Inside My Love was radio.
Yes.
Adventures in Paradise was radio, and
Yep.
I didn't hear that till I played the album. I said, wait a minute, this. Oh, and When It Comes Down to It, that was radio.
Mm.
And,
Yes, it's the Baby This Love I Have kicks the whole album off.
yeah.
It's amazing. And I forgot to mention one thing on that New Birth track, real quick. It was sampled by a group called Something for the People featuring Trina and Tamara, and it was a song called My Love is the Shh. And it was like the group's only charting single. It went to number 4 R&B. And when they got the opportunity to perform the song on Vibe TV, hosted by Sinbad, the then current version of New Birth joined them on stage, and they did the 2 songs together. My Love is the Shh, and It's Been a Long Time. Legendary. I can't believe I forgot.
What a great moment.
Yeah, Vibe TV.
Wow. I'm glad you went there, Scott, because I kind of struggled with that as well. Funk kind of ballads, but by non-funk artists.
Yes.
They're definitely out there. And I went through a lot of them with people like Marvin Gaye and OJ's and, Whispers and just all kinds, that really
Mhm.
are kind of in that vein, but they're not funk acts. So I'm glad you went there.
I've got one of those as well that I was struggling with. But yet y'all would probably run me off this podcast if I told you what it was.
Okay, you got to tell us at the end.
Okay.
And last person on that mini, I forgot to mention Joe Sample, playing some really beautiful Fender Rhodes electric piano on that. The
Joe
classic,
Sample.
Baby This Love.
Rest in
Sweet.
love, Joe Sample.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, for my number 2 pick, I'm going with the track that dominated really those house parties I mentioned a moment ago, back in the day, from my experience. And it was a song that kind of it kind of gained a momentum of its own. It wasn't the first single, and it kind of had a slow grow, and then it got very, very big, and it's become a standard at this point. But I'm going with Heat Wave, Always and Forever.
Mm.
And I don't have the Too Hot to Handle album, but you can kind of see a small picture of it there. Written by the great Rod Temperton and produced by Barry Blue, Always and Forever, with the amazing lead vocals of Johnny Wilder, with his brother Keith also in the group. Very international lineup that Heatwave had. But the way it builds the music on the back half, especially where it gets real jazzy and, with the drum play and the instrumentation, amazing vocal, the way it builds up, the way he kind of scats and improvises on that vocal, really builds tremendously. And I mean, if you want to get next to somebody, I don't think you can pick a better song than Always and Forever. It kind of maybe got a little played out, maybe with like weddings and things like that later on. But I'm talking about back in the day, and that's still how I feel about it. Just listen to it purely on its own merits and really dig what they're doing, because they're not just doing something simple. They're taking it to another level musically. And just in terms of its success, you would think it was number 1 across the board, right? At least I might think that, but it only got to number 18 on the pop chart. That's what I mean by kind of the slow build. Thank you, Scott.
The English version. I know everybody's
That's a
expecting the
later
one
press thing.
with the record burning on the street. That was the American cover, but when it first came out, this is how it came out in Europe.
This is a band that is grooving
King Ricky
like
Vincent has vetoed your album cover, Scott. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. Scott, go fine.
That's all
groove
good.
into Boogie Nights, groove into Ain't No Half Steppin', and then Always and Forever. It's like, man, didn't expect that. That came out of left field, thinking they were purely a funk band at the time, And so got to number 2 on the R&B chart, and
Instant classic.
yeah, that's my pick.
Maybe it didn't go. Oh, I'm sorry. It just seems like that's the only version possible. There was like all the ad-libbing and extended. It was like imprinted. There was like no other version. Maybe they didn't do there should have been a Heat Wave Live right around the same time as Commodore's Live and some of these other people, because those hits were iconic, and those guys are more than capable of. Actually, I saw them smoke the Commodores at the Oakland Coliseum. They did such a dazzling show. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. I don't need to see the Commodores because they whooped me. Yeah, they turned it out. So they should have given us more. Anyway,
Did they do the human pyramid when you saw them?
they did the human pyramid. It was bomb. It was just the bomb.
Yeah.
They're fun. That got that Dayton funk thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have to put on a show.
That's one of the most beautiful all-time classic R&B ballads, and of course, composed by Rod Temperton. Wonderful classic. And I love Stanley Jordan's solo guitar version. Gorgeous. And I love it.
It's like funk
Yeah.
with a bow. It's like funk with a bow tie on it. That's how I always felt about anything by Heat Wave. I really love that you brought Always and Forever up, because that's segue for us to shout out Mind Blowing Decisions on the Ballad mid-tempo side. I think one of the greatest songs ever committed to a recording. Mind Blowing Decisions is it's sunshine in a groove.
Yeah, good call. I like how we're veering too from, we're covering funk here, but we're talking about soul, also jazz with Stanley Jordan. And then we got the hip hop happening with Juliana. So this is, it's all interconnected. And I think the more people realize how far the tentacles reach for funk's influence, the better, because it's everywhere, people. You just need to recognize it and embrace it. So, and support
May
it.
I just thank you all for that too? I was pretty intimidated to have this conversation on one hand, and not intimidated at all on another, because I ride for Cameo and Sparkle and all that. But there was another side to this where I was afraid to talk with y'all, because I didn't know where the funk began and ended for you all, and some of the things that I have. Um, I wasn't sure if you would consider them real funk. So my next is maybe up for debate, but I feel more comfortable presenting it now.
Cool. I think if you talk to like a 17-year-old Ricky Vincent or Scott Goldfine, you would have found a different reaction. But over the years, we've kind of broadened our outlook.
Oh man.
Was y'all were you purists back then?
We were funk
Man,
snobs.
I'd be standing
Funk
on the wall
snobs.
at the party going, no, they copied that lick from somebody else. So I'm not going to dance to it. I'm just going to sit over here.
Mm.
I was a snob. It's a mess.
Yeah. They sold out. Forget them, Yeah. All right. So with that, Juliana, what do you got for us on pick number 3?
Well, my pick number 3, there's no way that this could be a definitive favorite for this band and vocalist, but it's my personal, and it's funky. My pick is Stop On By, specifically Rufus and Shaka Khan live at the Savoy. And on this live album, this particular live album, I find extraordinary because it's recorded well. There are it's a 4-record set. And in this 4-record set, of course, is the classic Sweet Thing. Um, a go-to karaoke favorite that my friends like to butcher all the time. But when you get on Sweet Thing, we're talking Stop On By, Packed My Bag, Stay. And at this point, we are doing, What You Gonna Do For Me, all of those sorts of things. But the reason I picked Stop On By, is it the material things that he's given? Can you truly say that you happy living? You mentioned that your wife loved lyrics, and um, there was no better place to find layered emotional lyrics that didn't get in the way of a dance groove than by looking at Rufus and Shaka. It's the breadth of their work. So, yeah, hey, Ricky Vincent shook a finger at me. I think I must have hit something good. What was that, Ricky?
I was always mad that Rufus and Shaka Khan didn't post their lyrics on their album covers.
Big time.
Because I was studying, I would just be studying all those lines on that and Fool's Paradise and everything on the Rufus side. Somebody's watching you, and I was like, well, they need to
That Egyptian song.
they got to put it.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
It was so I was always deeply involved in their lyrics, but I was like, well, are they not deeply involved in it because they don't put them on the record?
Well, one of the things about a funk ballad as well that I feel will make me jump up and down and say it's one of the greatest of all time. We talked about the singing and the lyrics. And to add to that, when we're talking about Rufus, most people know Shaka Khan, but I can't recall the name of the brother that was singing on Do You Love What You Feel?
Tony
I don't
Maybe.
know. I don't know a generation. I'm not quite sure where we turn. I'm sure that they're out there, but for a man, a black man, to emotionally say, "I've spent so many nights just making fights within myself until you came to me and held me right to your body." Yeah, do you love what you feel? So I feel like you guys, when it comes to pack my bags, the lyrics grab you just as deeply as the grooves themselves. And yeah, we can take great issue when we run into Rufus on the street somewhere and be like, "Yo, y'all, the
Yeah, they
people
really
need
should have
to
done that
read these lyrics."
for sure. Yeah, Do You Love What You Feel was Rod Temperton, and Stop On By, Baby You're Welcome
Bobby
is
Womack track.
Bobby Womack. Womack wrote that
Ah,
and recorded it first.
Yeah, he does another version of it. It's cool, but Rufus kind of holds a pocket
Uh, It's on the
of their
Rags to
own.
Rufus, right? That album originally.
Rufus
No,
side.
that was originally on Rufus' side.
Bobby Womack did that?
Yes.
It's on a Bobby Womack album. Understand it? I forget which one.
Oh,
No,
I
it's
have
on
to check
Safety
this
Zone.
out.
Safety Zone for Bobby Womack.
Thank you, guys.
We love that pick because we are all big Shaka Rufus fans. So
Oh, yes.
Stop on by, brother. Stop on by. Thank you. Yeah.
yeah. See,
You
we're
were
like hesitant and you're all in a loving place here. So
But no, but y'all still might toss me out. Wait till you hear my last one.
Uh-uh.
all right. Thank you, Juliana. And Ricky, number 3 for you.
oh, I'm still going, huh? Um, okay. This is my third. Well, I was waiting for somebody to do this, and I'm gonna be usurping people, but I thought all the great ballads were in the like 70s until I had this Rick James album in my hand, and I'm grooving on "Give It to Me, Baby" and all the mackiness of that he had, and then boom, there's that everything ballad with him and Tina that is like everything about breaking up, everything about being together, everything about coming together and breaking up, all of that at once in one song. And it showcases just the mastery of both of these two separate artists on one track because they were both joined at the gene pool, and they were just it was just that was an advanced record, and to me it was the last great funk ballad of the era. Prince kind of tinkered with that, but from my thinking, that was it. Fire and Desire.
1981 Street Songs. Yeah. Now there's a one that they did right live. I think you were talking about Heatwave not doing it. They would kill it live when Tina was a guest.
Yeah, and she had to be there. I mean, and she wanted to be. She would have followed him anyway. But it said so much about relationships. It said so much about relationships with our music and what we want. And most of y'all know, if you're collectors, you can tell when somebody is just filling a contract to put a song down, and somebody is motivated beyond measure to put something down. And that's what that ballad was. As much as they both done, that kind of stands as like a truly kind of pure inspiration. I'll just leave it there for both of them, for each of them.
It's so dramatic, that song.
And it feels like the drama was authentic because they've been through it. We knew they both had been paying dues and going through this and that, and a lot of us knew some semblance of this and that was drama that was our own, and they didn't necessarily face it until boom, till that record. And we thank them for that.
Is that our first duet?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as Today Us, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought so. All right.
It's the duet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ricky. Ace up your sleeve again. Scott, number 3, what do you got for us?
You know, I'm really playing around with my stack now because Ricky got me twice. I wasn't gonna do Fire and Desire. I was gonna do Moonchild about funk ballad. That song was something else.
That was a little deeper down the Rick rabbit hole.
Yeah. Sorry. I had this thing up. Apparently I didn't. Bye. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Moonchild was like serious funk.
It
So,
yeah.
but I'm gonna pivot to something I thought might have already been dropped, but it wasn't. So it's my turn to go into P with I've been watching you, the way you move, your sexy body. Gary Scheider up front with Parliament. Beautiful guitar work, beautiful vocals. La 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 la. So just you talk about something unexpected, after, you know, and Anya and Dr. Funkenstein, Children of Production, do that stuff. I mean, all of a sudden toward the end of the album, almost toward the end, you get this thing that's just like, wow, what a breath of fresh air. I don't think Parliament has recorded anything more beautiful. Just a beautiful, funky, sexy ballad. And I don't have too much more to say than that. I mean, Gary Scheider just put it down. And
So
you
that was
know,
Goins on that vocal.
going to the vocal on that?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. My bad. So who's playing guitar then? Is it Gary?
Gary
So
Scheider might be playing the guitar. Yeah.
that was the one
Plays
thing
guitar
about
too.
Parliament Records is that they just gave you the general credits of who played on the record, but you didn't know who was doing what unless you were really on the inside.
Now you gotta get this.
Yeah. I was reaching for mine.
I really need to get that too. So not for sure. But my bad. I always thought that was Gary. So that's Glenn Goins. Anyway, amazing. I still believe that is the most beautiful song that Parliament ever recorded, and a great vocal, great guitar, great vibe.
Yeah, because he did Handcuffs on Mothership and then that one on, he did several songs on Clones. Goins, amazing singer.
Vocals, Glenn,
Mhm.
drums, bass, Cordell Masson, guitars, Gary Scheider, Glenn Goins, electric piano, Bernie Worrell, sax,
Of
Michael
course.
Baker, backup vocals, George, Gary, Mudbone, Boogie, and Taka Boom.
Wow.
It's a heck of a
Thank you for that correction. It's always been a hard, sore point for me, and that's why I need to get that book because I would, I don't know who's playing guitar on this or who's doing whatever, because it just was never broken down for you on those records unless you were hardcore P-Funk funketeer. Did you know all of that?
Oh yeah.
And that was because they told us, even though we think we heard a lick of this and well, that sounds like so and so, but until they tell you, or until the player themselves tells you they did that, a lot of times they just knew how to mash it up.
Yeah, I thought that George kind of did it on purpose, just to kind of try to keep a lot of that stuff in house and not. He did have less chances of people trying to take people out if they knew exactly who did what. He kept those credits kind of nebulous.
Although in Glenn Goyne's case, it probably wasn't long after that he did leave to do Quasar. But
Yeah,
yeah. But that track, man, great pick. I mean, I love that song. It just is so off the beaten path for them,
yes.
but it's so like hypnotic in the way it just grinds and mm,
I think too.
Yeah, I hadn't done much preparation on that one because my other two had been snatched. But anyway, that's why I made that mistake too. But I love that song. Nothing like it in the Parliament canon.
I think Too Short does a version, and I have a demo of Digital Underground doing a take on it.
Wow, nice.
right on.
That's right.
All right. Well, I'm going to round out our third round, and I'm going with a track that to me is very unique and original in the canon of funk ballads. Starts off with just an incredible drum roll and has like drum rolls throughout it, which is uncharacteristic for this genre. And that is Ohio Players, I Want to Be Free.
Got me again.
Sugar doing his unbelievable vocals, Diamond on those drums. I'm also Ricky and I are both got the Ohio Players going. He's got the Westbound. I got the Mercury covered, and the background vocals with the shoop shoop shoop, Diamond and Billy, and when they come in with the falsetto chorus of "I Want to Be Free." I can't sing, so you're not gonna hear me sing, but
Go ahead.
the pre-chorus is fantastic, and just the way it closes with "Oh yeah, I want to be free." Oh yeah, that walking bass line, and I mean every drum roll Diamond does is different and unique. I mean, who does that? Nobody but them and him. And then the background, the string ensemble and the Fender Rhodes, it's just like a chef's kiss, on that
Billy
track.
Beck.
Billy Beck, man, just unbelievable. And of course, written and produced by the Players because they were their own self-contained thing, which was a beautiful thing. And what they did with it was just magic. I'm just
That
gonna
song was primarily written by Sugarfoot. That's pretty much Sugarfoot's song. And then the guys helped arrange it and everything, but that's one day
yeah,
I won't have to
I won't have to
listen.
listen to
Lies.
your lies.
Mm.
yeah. I
Able to
got
make up my own mind.
Doo-doo-doo.
yeah. You know how it makes me feel, child. I think the Lord doesn't give me the strength now.
Ah,
Yeah,
And the audacity to come that hard and that soft at the same time in the same record like that. It's like you had to
That
have
part.
total confidence that you was making number one hits no matter what. And that was who they were at that moment.
but again,
just
brilliant representation of the theme of the song. He's like had it up to here. That's the drums. You motherfucker, go back. One day I'm gonna be free, honey.
Hey,
That's the balance.
I want to be free. Walked so easy like Sunday morning could run.
Mm, mm.
I honestly don't even know if that song was a single or not, but I mean, it was played constantly on LA radio back
It
in the
was.
day. Yeah.
They had, they played album cuts on the radio in LA, and they definitely helped sell the album. You couldn't buy it on a single because that's fire. So fire singles were fire and Man, I think it was "I Want to Be Free" was a single. Nothing else on there was a single.
Was Together a single?
Nope, that was the B side
B-side.
of "Fire,"
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
And they wore that fire out on the crossover. I remember Donnie and Marie did that. I think they had
Donnie and Marie did a version of
no,
Fire.
they didn't play it, but they had a like a taped rendering of Fire by the Ohio Players. They said, here's the Ohio Players, and they're not in the studio. It's just a tape thing. But they kept wearing that out. Like that was the only song they ever did for 3 years.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, all the mother TV shows, they kept having the Ohio Players still playing that song, and they 3 albums away from it.
All
Fire.
right. Well, that wraps up round 3. So let's dive into 4 with Juliana coming back around again. What do you got?
Well, I'm gonna pivot because you got me on Ohio Players. I had Heaven Must Be Like This teed up, and low key, I was wondering if Sweet Sticky Thing could be considered a ballad. It's probably not, or
Heck
maybe
no,
so.
definitely.
So I just want to thank you for bringing up this Ohio Players conversation. They mean the world to me. And for my pivot, I'm gonna throw this up here, but I want everybody who's rocking with us to go to the original writer. When you go to Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you're gonna go to find Strawberry Letter 23. I need y'all to go to the Shiggy Otis version. Not because it's better or worse or anything, just because Shuggy needs his flowers for writing this amazing song. The Brothers Johnsons are icons in their own right. And in a conversation about funk and playing and cats and this and that, they are at the top of the list. But as it matters to feeling that emotion of a funk ballad, I'm sure all of y'all have something to say about Shuggy Otis's contribution as a composer and I was actually pretty late to the Shuggy Otis train on Strawberry Letter 23. When I was coming up, I thought it was a Brothers Johnson song. And I was very, very much an adult when I just heard Shuggy Otis's version for the first time. So Strawberry Letter 23, we talked a lot about composition and how certain arrangements will move you from this to that and the third. And without question, um, the bridge on Strawberry Letter 23 with this magnanimous guitar part that and it just, goes up and this, that, and the other. All of that is fine, good, and gravy for the cats. But the reality is the feminine side of me that just connects with the romance feels like I'm rolling across the Bay Bridge or down PCH on a partially sunny day with a breeze blowing in my hair anytime Strawberry Letter 23 comes on. So, do you all know anything else about Shuggy Otis that we can do to pivot from Brothers Johnson to Shuggy's contribution in this area?
Johnny Otis's son, and the great Johnny Otis, Showtime guy of old school R&B. Shuggy's kind of Ricky can help with this, I'm sure, but he was a shadowy figure. I don't know why he never did more. Was it a mental thing, or what
He
happened to that?
he was very much a free spirit, and
Mm.
all those real deeply layered lyrics in that song. He has a lot of I think 2 solo albums, and then they compiled stuff unreleased, and he was very much a prolific guy who could write heavy pieces, heavy parts, heavy things that weren't necessarily condensed into a tight radio friendly piece. But Strawberry Letter 23 was all of those things put together. But he had a way of really kind of opening up your thinking, the way he could play and really imagine these things. And he was somebody that came, like you said, he was Johnny Otis's son. And I met Johnny Otis and worked with him on some showcase things, and to come through so much music, and there's plenty of next generation folks, but it seemed like Shuggie Otis consumed all of that stuff and started putting out work, not polished, finished albums, but putting out work that just sort of incorporated all of that. So a lot of times we give Sly Stone the credit, or I think I mentioned Stevie Wonder, people that can really combine all those different musical influences in the early '70s and stuff. Shuggie Otis was one of those people who just kind of, and we all know somebody that was like that would just be in the corner noodling and making something up, and then have some demo tracks, and you knew there was a nugget of potential, that if that could be harnessed and that could be packaged, and then you'd have to have ambition, and you'd have to have the right connections, and blah blah blah, blah. But sometimes you just have that that's ability to put the soul out, but it doesn't always get to the finish line like that. And so it did a lot to spark the name of Shuggie Otis. And then about, I don't remember, it was 20, 30 years later, he reemerged and did some tours. And he was at the Long Beach Funk Fest, and he was the headliner of that. We did like 5 of them. And, so a lot of times the experimental guys fall in a kind of a groove. So by the time we saw him, he was more of a blues guy, and he just kind of set up the blues, did the blues, and oh yeah, I do that song too. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, blues. Oh yeah, I do that lick too. Oh, blues, and that was kind of. But I can't imagine. To us as fans, it's like from the outside in, it's like, hey, you've got a legacy. Hey, you've got that. And he might just say, I got one sorry ass hit, and I'm broke, and
Oh
what
no.
you gonna give me today? So it's how it is, inside outside, the sort of creative universe these people are in.
You
One
always
thing
hope
about
that
that,
like
go ahead. Go ahead, Julian.
you always hope that your experimental geniuses would get their flowers and their paychecks, and it just doesn't always work out like that. So Strawberry Letter 23, that's it for me for this round. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to
Galloway.
say the 3 things about that song I always think about are that A, the song itself is Strawberry Letter 23. People used to get confused. How come all they keep talking about in the song is Strawberry Letter 22? He's answering a letter that was sent to him by his lady. Of course, the guitar solo on the Brothers Johnson version was not played by George. It was played by Lee Ritenour and
What?
session master. Yeah. And then the last thing, of course, y'all, that song was brilliantly used in Jackie Brown. In the movie Jackie Brown, I'm not going to give it away, but if you have not seen that movie, the way they use Strawberry Letter 23 in Quentin Tarantino's Pam Grier starring Jackie Brown is just out of this world. Out of this world.
I
Those
saw
are
them
great
play in
points.
Oakland about 5 years before Lewis died, and they had a third guitarist up there named Henderson Wickliffe, I think his name is, and he just hung in the background doing backgrounds until Strawberry Letter 23, because he had to do all that lick in the middle, because
Well,
George was too busy hamming it up, being Big Brother. And even though Lewis was a superstar, done Thriller, done Michael Jackson, done all that stuff, all those, but the older brother kept kind of putting him in his place, and I could see why Lewis was drinking a lot at the time, and
talked about that before. I remember on one of the previous episodes.
Yeah.
So interesting how people's sibling issues play out on stage when they perform it sometime.
Yeah.
So I want to say that Chuggy Otis album's from Freedom Flight from 1971, and people should go back and check it out for sure. And when you're talking about Ricky, it reminded me of the discussion we had a little bit about Betty Davis too. Kind of like from the same era, and kind of did some amazing work and just kind of vanished. A little bit similar. You never know what's going on with these cats, but great pick and great point, Scott. I didn't even realize that George wasn't playing the guitar on that part. So
Me either. Thank you.
Jones production, and so Q is not wasting any time in the studio. We need to get this done. And Red, come on in here.
I'd be curious who brought that song to the Brothers Johnson, if it was Quincy or somebody else.
No, they were friends with him. The brothers Johnson they knew Chucky, and so they decided to cover that song. That was a connection that they had with Chucky.
All right. Educating. Fantastic. Thank you, Juliana. Now we're on to Ricky for pick number 4.
Number 4. Okay. And there's a lot of groups we've touched on, and I could double up. And then when Juliana brought up like the writer of the song, I thought she was going to steal my thunder. But there's somebody who has a real mastery of funk ballads, and most of them are with Earth, Wind, and Fire. But he wrote a song for Mother's Finest called Love Changes. And that's the track that I want to recommend. That's my choice. Love make you so happy. Oh, and it has all that power, like the Confunction track we were talking about. And Skip Scarborough was the writer. And he did Can't Hide Love for Earth, Wind, and Fire. And actually it was, I think, a different group before that. And then
Creative Source.
And so he was a go-to guy for some of those snappy, driving, soulful, mid-tempo, up-tempo, low-tempo tracks. He could do it. But Love Changes bugged me out because it came out of left field, and I wasn't keeping track of the writers at that point. And then I had that single, which is like maybe 3.5 minutes. And I was slow dancing to that back in 1978. And I was like, this is not long enough. And then the ballad the album track kind of gave it its service the way it deserved. And so I never let go of that one. And like I said, when you start talking about the funk ballad, the power ballad, it'll grip you. That one has it for me. Thank you.
There it is. Thank you, Scott. Great song.
Great
I
song.
mean, it was an alternate of mine. So
It's
Yeah.
Baby Gene Kennedy lead vocals, and they were really known as a black rock band, and they surprised themselves when they got a legit R&B hit with Love Changes, and then it was later covered by Kashif with Melissa Morgan, and with a hit all over again. That was the 90s, I believe. Late 80s, early 90s, when Kashif and Melissa Morgan redid it. Great song. Great pick. Skip Scarborough is a master.
The
He was
chorus
the
is
very
so
first
catchy.
person I ever interviewed. Very first person I ever interviewed. It was a phoner.
I think that song actually mixes well with The Love of Your Own. I think you're in a similar groove there, Ricky.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, Joyce Kennedy, underappreciated. I think, she goes up there in the shakas and the,
Can't believe
I mean, she's amazing. And of course, she was able to launch some solo action after that, out of the hard rock vein of Mother's Finest.
Nobody really knew what to do with her. When she did go to A&M and do the 2 solo albums, she was doing much more inside pop R&B material, but her real you know, she's a funketeer, a rock funker, you know. And you're talking about people that are still going. You know, Ohio Players is still going with Diamond still on the drums. I think he's about to retire, I'm hearing. But Mother's Finest is still doing it, and Gene is still leading that band, and they are more popular in Europe than they are here. Other parts of the world, they still continue to they play arenas. They just never really, and they did very well in the United States, playing with all the white rock bands. And they played with Eric Mahogany Rush, Aerosmith, whoever was happening in the '70s. Mother's Finest was on bills with everybody, and they held their own. Those rock people respected Mother's Finest. They played with everybody.
Yeah. All right. Good pick, Ricky. I love that one. Scott, are you going to have to pivot again or what you got?
No, no, I didn't have that one. That's a great song. I am still doing more esoteric to the left things. So I wanted to bring this one up because it uses the drum machine, and it's a very, very, very sexy song by a group that, again, is not really associated with funk, but this song is unquestionably a very liquidy funk song, and it's Sexy Mama by the Moment. Sexy Mama. Drum machine. This is Harry Ray only on this track. You know, there's no Billy Brown, no Al Goodman. Uh-oh, 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 uh-oh. It is so sexy. I mean, and so basically Harry Ray wrote the song with Sylvia Robinson and Al Goodman in the studio. He's the one that came up with the drum machine pattern. I think they called it the idiot box. And I interviewed Al for another very special part of my production.
That better have the 8-minute version on there.
Oh, it does. Oh, please. Yeah. You know, you don't even play, you know, who's going to play Sexy Mama in 3 minutes? Just like you said, who's going to play the studio version of Devotion? You know, but anyway, I love the song so much. That groove is just so sexy. And boom, doom, boom, doom, boom, boom, boom. Just over and over. It's just such a hypnotic loop of a vibe, and it totally also simulates sex. And the lyrics have so many great '70s lines in it, including "Go ahead and let your Jones get good and funky," and also "Go ahead and lay that thing on me." There's so many great songs. I mean, I was going to just recite the whole lyric, but he just basically says the lyrics twice, and then it just turns into this opus where he's going back and forth with the string section. You know, he's, you know, having this little orgasmic moments. He did a guitar solo in there by Tommy Keith, Frankie Prescott, the great Frankie Prescott playing bass on that one. Just amazing, absolutely amazing song.
It's like that song is like a whole wingman for like if you was out at a club and that song came on and you couldn't like close the deal and get somebody to the crib, like I don't know what to tell you.
You have first you got to get them to the dance floor, and if you can do that and get things heated up, then you should be able to go straight home. But wasn't nothing like Sexy Mama. The Moment's biggest record was Love on a Two-Way Street, which came before that. It was number one for 4 or 5 weeks, but they never had a song that stayed on the chart as long as Sexy Mama. 20 weeks straight on the chart. Love the song to death. And Harry Ray, God bless him. I never got to meet him. He died before I was doing what I'm doing, but he's one of my all-time favorite vocalists. He has a pristine, sweet falsetto, and he also has a very nice tenor. I like his idol was Smokey Robinson, but as much as I like and respect Smokey, Harry is in my top 3 all-time favorite.
Oh, yeah.
I could just imagine being a woman and hearing somebody go, I want to open up the love gates to your heaven.
This afternoon, I know you like me, but tonight you're going to love me. That song is just dope. It's dope as hell. Macalicious.
Who couldn't close a deal on that?
Come on. Come on.
It's idiot proof.
Have the biggest.
Wait, that's the title of your next playlist, Scott. The idiot proof, the idiot proof ballad deal closer playlist.
I think we're
All
coming
right.
up with them right now.
Hot pick, Scott. Thank you for that. I'm like Ricky sometimes. I'm getting so lost in y'all talking about your picks that I'm kind of forgetting about mine. But now I got to dial it in. So for my number 4, I'm going with a group that I'm really surprised no one's picked yet because nobody mastered the bedroom ballad like this group. And it was really hard to pick them because, they had jams like Groove With You, Voyage to Atlantis, Hello, It's Me, At Your Best, You Are Love, Let Me
Yeah.
Down Easy, Don't Say Goodnight. It goes on and on and on. But the one I went with is For the Love of You.
Classic.
Yeah. So, I mean, that mellow synth melody, it seems so simple, but it's not. I mean, the way they're just so masterful, the way they carry it off, and Chris Jasper doing his thing with the synths in it, just so subtle, but so crucial to the whole thing and the whole feel and that snare drum beat. It's just swaying, it's hypnotic. Ronald's impeccable phrasing and his singing and feel and the way he embellishes the lines, the flute sounds, the acoustic guitar, the Fender Rhodes chords. I mean, it all just coalesces and just makes you feel like, you are drifting on a melody, just like the lyrics.
Yes.
That song was actually a rarity for the Isley Brothers. I didn't realize this till I was researching a little bit. It was a rare case of them having 2 top 40 hits on one album. So, Fight the Power, of course, was a huge hit. This one also got up, like 22 or something like that on the pop chart. So it actually crossed over, which was rare for them because they were really a major like black music phenomenon, the Isleys. I mean, they sold at rock band levels. Everything was platinum and they had like a big hit single, at least one on every record. But I mean, they really did not cross over much during that 3+3 era. Which was great because to me they kept true to their sound. But that track's been sampled a bunch of times. Maybe some of you can mention them. It's been covered. I have a list here of covers of it by Earl Klug, Whitney Houston, Norman Brown, Candy Dulfer, Regina Bell, sampled by Tupac, among others. And just that whole side of the record, they have that thing of the jam side and the makeout side.
Yeah.
And that makeout side had this along with sensuality and make me say it again, girl. I mean, you talk about idiot proof. I mean, you put on the Isley Brothers. Come on now. Right?
That was definitely it.
Sure.
It was, following their music, they were keen on covers for a while, doing Summer Breeze and listen to the music. And it seemed like that was holding them together. And it seemed like when they hit The Heat Is On, that was all them. Original, everything on that album was their idea. They had sort of graduated past their peers and said, we can do this. We can do ballads like the best ballad makers we've been copying, and we can do other different, pop and rock tricks and things. And we're gonna make our bold statement and not worry about what the industry says about us, person on a pop record, whatever. So it was a great bold moment and a bold statement. And I agree with you, Scott. That was a breathless intro to that song. You just takes you up and takes you away and never lets go.
Yeah, when Chris Jasper and Ernie Isley really started taking over the writing for that group, they just hit a string that was fearless. I mean, they were just wonderful songwriters, and yeah, Ronald's timeless voice singing all that stuff. Yeah, they credited all 6 members as the songwriters, but primarily during that era, it was Chris and Ernie that wrote those songs. And I believe For the Love of You is an Ernie song. And like Sensuality was a Chris song. I mean, you can kind of start once you know, you figure out, oh, okay, this was primarily so and so. So start to get the feel of who did what. I think what was the other thing I said about that? For the Love of You. Oh, no, one of the sweetest things when I interviewed the Average White Band a long, long time ago when I started doing those notes, Hamish Stewart, who wrote A Love of Your Own, said that he was so impressed and blown away when the Isley Brothers came out with that album. And he just talked about cruising. He lived in Los Angeles at the time with the top down, listening to For the Love of You. He just couldn't believe it. Masterpiece.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not that big on lyrics, but I did highlight like a little bit here just to share with people. Smoother than a gentle breeze, flowing through my mind with ease, soft as can be, and lovely as a ray of sun that touches me when the morning comes. Mm. And I also will mention that that one was produced also by Cecil and Margoloff, so they were involved in that one with the Isleys as well. Interesting, but talk about a dreamy feel on that track. Mm. So thank you everybody for not picking the Isley Brothers. I appreciate it.
Oh, brother. I'd like to thank you I'd like to thank you and you. Well, y'all can't see me pointing. You two Scots for usurping me with the moments.
Mm.
Sexy Mama shout out just means great minds think alike.
Mhm.
And I was just about to mention the Isley Brothers. I don't know if y'all can see this. This is a long version of Between the Sheets. Speaking of the Isley, the Chris Jasper era.
Yep.
So this pivot, I'm going to go to a classic group. I don't think we touched on them. I think we mentioned them. I don't think that we touched on them. So it's very hard to pick one song, but I'm gonna do it. And it's Can't Hide Love by Earth, Wind, and Fire. And Can't Hide Love, um, I've got 2 pieces of vinyl, this Gratitude and this Best Of, where it appears alongside of the ones that folks know, Reasons and Devotion and all of those sorts of things. But one of the things about Can't Hide Love is that it actually has that thing where Ricky mentioned if you double the time on the drums on a groove, it could easily be a banger. So I feel like that romancing, that macking thing that Scott Galloway so eloquently described with the moments in Sexy Mama is definitely seen in You Can't Hide Love. I remember having a conversation with somebody saying that this song sounds like Barry White could have written it because nobody macked like Barry White. The brother said, "You want my love and you can't deny. You know it's true, but you try to hide." Yeah. And it's like anytime you got like it's like there's a Sugarfoot Bootsy school of crooning. Yeah. Oh, girl. Larry Blackman. Yeah, you like this. It shows up in the funk ballads, and it's so much fun to feel those because when the brother gives you the or yeah, it's like they know they hit on something right here. And I'll stop there because Earth, Wind, and Fire is a series of conversations unto itself. And I'll just close by saying one of my favorite nods to Earth, Wind, and Fire and You Can't Hide Love was actually done live by this man, D'Angelo. This is an original pressing of Brown Sugar. And he performed one of the best live versions of Can't Hide Love that I've ever heard. I'm very persnickety when it comes to folks covering my favorite songs. And Can't Hide Love is one that I would prefer folks not touch,
Mm.
frankly. So, I was pearl clutching and judgy and the whole thing. And I love D'Angelo, but I was like, ah. And he did it, and he did it wonderfully. So I'll just stop there. Earth, Wind, and Fire, You Can't Hide Love, the next level of romancing from, with that spirit of sexy mama in the voice. Put that on the idiot proof list too. You Can't Hide Love needs to go on the idiot proof list.
You can't get what you never had.
Mm.
Say it.
So it's just so convincing, everything about it. And I don't think Maurice White gets flowers for being a soul stylist that he is, for being a lover man with the vocals that he is, because he didn't come with the Teddy Pendergrass physique, but he came with the technique of love music that, I mean, come on, Philip Bailey was in the band. That could have been, they I don't know how the inner workings were, but both of them had lead singer chops and made classics as lead singers in that group.
You can't compare them. They're so different and so essential, each one of them.
Yeah. And
they both get to represent on that song. Maurice is the primary lead vocalist, but then when you get to the "You Can't Hide," I betcha. So Philip and Reese would do that stuff together. A lot of people don't realize that Maurice could do. He had the falsetto voice too. And when you put the two of their falsettos together, that was the signature background vocal sound for
I didn't know Maurice was doing falsetto like that. I just thought Philip was doubling his stuff.
They did those. They knocked those out together. And
You better educate me. All right.
Also on the outro too, that track.
Oh yeah. Incredible. Incredible. Again, Skip Scarborough, Reese, Charles Stepney, producer and arranger. The original version of Can't Hide Love was very almost Brazil 66. You know, ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-da, you know it's true. You try. It was like a whole nother thing. Fifth Dimension meets Sergio Mendes. Charles Stepney said, "Get out of here." Bop, 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 bop. Got that pocket. He just slowed it down and they got real.
He's like, no, we're doing stanking here. This is
stanking it up.
We're stanking this up right here.
Yeah,
closing the album out with some stank. After all this live stuff, the new tunes that were up tempo and whatever, said, we got one more for you. Woo! Classic.
Memorable.
I dig it.
Great pick.
What I didn't realize, interesting to hear you talk about Maurice being able to do the falsettos, but later on when Maurice was out of the group, Philip Bailey was able to handle Maurice's parts better than I ever expected. I mean, he can kind of sing lower as well.
Yeah, they were a really good team, and people didn't realize that they could do what each other did, but then there's certain things that they did together on the mic that provided the signature.
Earth, Wind, and Fire and the great bands had great vocals that could basically take on anyone, but they had great rhythm sections that could whoop anyone. They had both. Right?
Yeah.
That's what folks are trying to do covers. Didn't Taylor Swift try to do September? Tried to do Earth, Wind, and Fire. They try to do it. And if you do, you realize you're up against master vocalists on so many levels. And the best you can do is have something vocal that can't touch the rhythm section that is one of the best in the world. So, folks are slowly figuring out how spectacular this musical period was, because these folks they just got ammo on every level of the sound that they can come at you with. That's when we talked about Sly Stone. I've had to talk about him a lot since we lost him. It was like Sly Stone was the best singer in the room and the best musician in the room. And that's how all those ideas could come together. And that's what the great funk bands did. That's what they could do.
Amen. Juliana, great pick. Way to close it out for your group of funk ballads. Earth, Wind, and Fire was another one of those ones so challenging to pick one. I went through several. Love's Holiday was another one I was thinking of, but
Mhm.
Nice.
yeah. All right, Ricky, what are you
Damn.
gonna bring it home with?
Oh man. Because I'm torn because I was hoping somebody else would do the Barry White piece because we haven't done that yet.
Mm.
Um, but then I have a personal one that kind of pushes the boundaries of what a ballad is. So I'll take the personal one because y'all ain't gonna pick it. Um, and it's kind of we've already gone there, but every now and then when I hear it or when I encounter this song, it takes me away, it hypnotizes me. It feels like something that nobody else can do. And yet, to me, it's a pure love ballad, and that's Angel by the Ohio Players.
Mm.
Title song. When you listen to the backgrounds, send me down an angel, someone that I can love. It's like, wait a minute, that belongs in one of those low down, slow down ballad background hooks, but it's this mid-level thing that only a funk band could do, and they stay there the whole time. And then I don't know. I just think Sugarfoot had a double espresso and just said all the way through it. But it was just so passionate and just on time. It's like, wow, these people, they're collectively all seven members giving love out as one. And that just it always struck me when it hits me. It would always strike me. I was like, wow, this is why these guys they're at this advanced level. Uh, some bands that was from Angel. That was after all their hit, crossover records, after their greatest hits, and then they come back with that. And it reminded me of a Glory How to Stupid when Parliament had done all their bigger hits, and they just sort of clowning without even trying, making bomb tracks. And so here's Ohio Players. They've done everything they had to do. Let's just vibe on, let's just hit this and just stay in this and hold this together and vibe on the love that we can collectively create this thing with. And boom, and there it is. And so that song just, oof, um, and to me, we've gone around in circles as what a ballad is, but it's really a love ballad, and it doesn't
Hmm.
matter what the cadence, what the
Song ballad.
what the what the time is, time signature is, but they collectively delivered something for me, and so Angel by the Ohio Players.
That was the last great album for sure of Ohio Players. Had to grow on me as the years went on. It was kind of disappointing for me when it came out, but as the years have gone on, I really have learned to appreciate that record in ways that I do not. Mr. Mean and Jazzy Lady were kind of falling off, but Angel is better than I remember it being. And that song is absolutely beautiful. The background vocals, Sugar's lead, the horn part, everything. Yeah, and it's a mid-tempo, grooving kind of a ballad. Love song. Love it.
Yeah, they were at a point then too where you had to let some of it grow on you a little bit. It wasn't as immediately accessible as some of the other hits. So songs like Angel and Body Vibes,
Yeah.
the more I listened to them, the more I dialed into them, and I really appreciated sort of the eccentricities that they had going on in those tracks. They were long and they went different places and they were just really kind of, doing their thing.
Yeah.
And they had the audacity also to start that album off with a song like Angel. They're not starting off with like the slammer, they're just doing their thing, easing into it. And yeah, great album too. Like you said, Scott, I think over time, people need to go back to it because OHIO was the only real hit off it, and that was just, something they had from their live shows.
Right. Absolutely.
But man, we're vibing on the players, aren't we? We got the two shirts, and now we got two picks of the Ohio players. So, and people think of them not necessarily as balladeers, but there you go.
Oh, you have to.
But
No,
don't forget, Heaven Must Be Like This.
that's right. Sweet Sticky Thing, Together. They had a lot of beautiful love songs.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Ricky.
You all mentioned Sly Stone a moment ago. Just a quick shout out to that conversation about Maurice White being a song stylist. Can't strain my brain. It made me think of Sly Stone, Can't Strain My Brain.
Mm.
And I know it ain't my turn, so I'm gonna just shut up and keep going.
I love Can't Strain My Brain.
Small talk.
Small talk.
Yeah. Yeah. There it is. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Ricky. Way to bring it home. Mr. Galloway, what you got for our final one with you?
All right. I have four things sitting here, but I had really planned to do this one, so that's the one I'm going to do. And it's going to take us to the jazz funk side of town with Mr. Donald Byrd from his album Stepping Into Tomorrow. I wanted to go with Think Twice. Think Twice is an amazing funk ballad. The way that Larry and Fonz Mizell were producing and writing for Donald Byrd and his group of musicians, who I'll talk about in a minute, they just kind of came up with sections of grooves, and they would hold up a letter. So, okay, we're going to play the A groove now. And then they'd hold up another letter and say, okay, now we're going to go to B. So Think Twice has three different grooves. The first one is like a mid-tempo, almost light disco kind of thing. And the special guest vocalist on this song is a lady named Kay Haith. And she's, maybe we ought to think twice. And Gary Bartz is playing the saxophone along with her. He's not playing the melody. He's just grooving along with her singing the melody. And then Donald comes in with his part. I really love you. You know I do. That second part is the funkiest part of the song because the groove changes from boom, deep, to do, boom, boom. Oh, I do. More syncopated. Harvey Mason is the drummer. And then it has the third part that kind of just takes you on this little ride. Doom, 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 doom. And that part became a major sample 2 decades later from Main Source, a song called I'm Looking at the Front Door. So that little third part is like a bridge. But this song is so funky. It's playfully, gently sexy, and you've just got all these wonderful people. The lyrics were written by Sagiti long before he was involved with the SOS band. Like I mentioned, Gary Bartz on sax, Larry Mizell playing a lot of the electric keyboards, Jerry Peters playing the piano, Chuck Rainey on the bass, Harvey Mason on drums, Stephen Ramjet, which is Stephanie Spurl and her then husband. I forget what his real name is, but they used to go by Stephen Ramjet as their duo name. They're playing the hand percussion. And then Mayuto Pereira played the congas. That, Think Twice is just a really, really special jazz funk fusion classic. And I love it. And I just couldn't let this one not get mentioned.
Yeah.
Think Twice, Donald Byrd from Stepping Into Tomorrow.
Didn't Erica Badu do one take on that?
Did she? Was it on her live album or something? Or do you think she sampled it? Or I don't remember. The only sample I really clearly remember is that looking out the front door, boom, 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 boom. They took that third section and that was the basis for most of that tune for them.
There's quite a few songs that were inspired by main sources flip on that.
Looking at the
So
front door.
if we're trying to think of where else we've heard the essence of think twice, it may be because some people picked up on main source and then did some things from there. I would definitely call that song essential when it comes to that particular era of hip hop. That whole that jazz thing era.
Yeah, and that goes back also to what I said again with New Birth when Something for the People kind of sampled it for My Love Is the Shh. I heard that this year, that was a phone call I got at the beginning of the before Glorilla has sampled My Love Is the Shh. So got these combination of publishing things have been there, but I think that it got so crazy that she's not going to put it on the album. So it's either a mixtape song or a single only. But because the publishing got too crazy, it's not going to be on her album. I did not get the name of the song that Glorilla's song that samples "My Love Is the Shh," but she did that recently. So sampling a sampled song.
Sample. Erica Badu does Think Twice on Worldwide Underground.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
The version.
Thanks for
Excellent.
All right. Scott, way to finish strong. Thank you for that. Bringing some class to the proceedings like that.
such a jazz.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So for my final pick, it's somebody that's already been mentioned, but I had a hard time again picking which track. And I was tempted to do things like Insatiable and things like that, but I wanted to stay away from the falsettos because as a guy, I'm not as dialed into his falsetto stuff as when he uses his natural voice. It sounds more soulful and a little harder hitting, which I think is closer to more of the funk vibe also. So the one I picked was from the Gold album, Shh, which originally was released by Tevin Campbell, but then he said, I'm taking this back because I'm going to kill this MF. And boy, does he. I mean, I talked about the Ohio Players with I Want to Be Free, the way that comes in with the drums. This one too with Michael Bland, just killing it on the drums. I mean, an explosion. And then it just comes in with that groove, lay it down, and just the changes he goes through in that track. I mean, nobody, in my opinion, could do that like Prince. And you said that kind of Prince kept that alive a little bit. I think he did, Ricky. I mean, especially with this one. Because it was a hit for Tevin originally, maybe it didn't get quite as much attention when he did it. But it was recorded live, I think, in the studio. You can tell because it has that band feel. And I love that band feel, especially for a funk ballad. And his just really powerful, sexy vocals, layering the vocals like he does to emphasize the catchiness of the melody itself. And then that Santana-like guitar that's just sizzling and cutting through it like a razor blade, man, just cutting through that groove. Incredible. It builds up to such a incredible dramatic level and then just has sort of like a atmospheric aftermath before it finally ends. It just kind of like you're saying, Scott, kind of like an orgasmic level, and then just he's destroyed it.
Right.
And that I don't think his was a single, but he did do it live a lot. And I think 93 was when Tevin did it, and he did this in 95. A couple years later, reclaimed the track. But just that point where he says, tonight I'll teach you, baby, teach you, baby, teach you, baby, to scream and scream and scream and scream, and then just punches it out of the park. I mean, just so dynamic. So
Great.
Gotta go with that one, fellas.
The classic song, the classic line out of that song is, I want to do you after school like some homework. And I don't think Tevin could really deliver that lyric the way that Prince did. They were trying to do some things for Tevin with that song, Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers. I can't remember. No, he was on Quest. Yeah, he was on Quincy's label.
Yeah, you got it right. Warner Brothers Quest.
Yep. But Tevin, yeah,
Don't worry about it.
nobody's gonna deliver that line.
This was a throwdown. I was one of my picks, and just most definitely the legend of the funk ballad got kicked into the future with that song.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a line near the end, sex is not all I think about, it's just all I think about you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So,
Uh,
well, so I guess that
okay. We
You
get to wrap up with some honorable mentions.
yeah. So throw a 5 or 10 or just keep them rapid fire, just throw them out there what you got. So
Well,
go for it.
I slept on one of the big power ballads from out here, and that was Larry Graham's "Is It Love" from "My Radio Sounds Good to Me." It's as big as "Shush" and "A Love of Your Own." You guys might want to sniff that one out, and it has the big guitar break as well. That one, and we didn't do Barry White, and I was leaning towards playing your game, baby.
Yes, sir.
Because it was just so hard on the one, but everything he does is luxurious, sexy music, fast or slow. And so I felt like we could all pick 5 Barry White tracks and still be rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot, ecstasy counts for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
So I promised that I had one that I thought would get me kicked out the group. My honorable mention. I don't care who don't think this is funk. I know everything that's funky ain't funk, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I can't tell you why. By Glenn and them.
Glenn and them.
I like that song.
Mm-mm. I think that's a very R&B soul ballad. I mean, Tim, he just came in with that one, and they weren't ready for him. I think Don and them had to help him finish it. But Timothy B. Schmidt, man, that is his soul tune. And then Howard Hewitt covered it, and then Nita Baker covered. And, it's like it's just that really smooth soul.
But Glenn at the end, get there, don't go back.
Yeah. No, I think I might get more kicked out for mine, which was Summer. Love to Love You, Baby. That is one of the sexiest grooves. Once again, the bass line.
No, Digital Underground did that.
They sure did. Freaks
Are
of the
you
industry.
kidding me?
Freaks of the industry. Boom, boom, boom.
But disco at its finest is funk, though, isn't it? I mean, I know this is not that's a podcast for another day,
That
but
put her on the map right there.
disco.
Yeah.
Another conversation.
This is before. This is like discotheque. The sexy lady. Wow. No, that song is just really, really funky. And it's 17 minutes long of her moaning and groaning, and they have orchestration and little road solos. But what keeps the funk alive throughout that whole song is that
bass line.
That bass.
It's like 16 minutes, I think, that track.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love that so much.
So
that one will let you in the club. That ain't getting you kicked out.
I got honorable mentions too. Honorable mentions for me. I was gonna maybe go Sweet Thing, and glad you touched on Shotgun Rufus, Juliana. And then I also was gonna as an alternate, I had Deja Vu by Tina, Lady T.
Wow. I had Aladdin's Lamp for Tina, and I talked about her being my North Star, but there's just so many things. And then once Fire and Desire was brought up, I said, okay, that handles Rick and Tina, because I also had Moontop again from Glow.
Shoot, I had I Need Your Lovin' and thought it was too mid-tempo, and I also had Casanova Brown and thought it was too torchy something.
Hmm.
One group that we didn't bring up that I had as a backup was Anticipation by the Barkays.
That I don't
Mm.
remember. I gotta go and check that out.
Good
I
one.
don't remember Anticipation.
And
That Mercury era?
The album with She Talks to Me with Her Body, isn't it on that? That's the name of the album. That one.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The Barkays has some good ones. Running in and out of my life.
I have a playlist of just nothing but Barkays ballads. Just on a slow day, I just line them all up together because once you're in that pocket, you don't want to leave it. So we could have done quite a few of those. Your attitude,
Yeah.
Hey, you know what, fellas? I forgot. I had shout out to. I know we were very male heavy today, and between you mentioned the moments. We could talk about Sylvia Pillow Talk, and then we talked about Earth, Wind, and Fire. They had this amazing relationship with the emotions, and they had emotions. I mean, some people consider that pop R&B, but I think a funk ballad might be "Don't Ask My Neighbors."
Absolutely. Skip Scarborough strikes again.
Mhm.
That's another Skip Scarborough song.
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Lord, he's got a lot.
Well, at least we did include Shaka, Tina, and
Minnie.
Joyce Kennedy.
Joyce.
I had Minnie Riperton.
Who
Yeah,
did
that's
that?
right.
Who did that? I can't stand the rain. Who did that song?
And Peebles.
That was another funky
But I
one.
really like Graham Central Station's version.
Chocolate does a good version of that on Ain't No About Doubt It, the Graham Central Station.
Yeah.
That's right.
Man, I love
right.
this conversation so much.
Yeah, but we got to wrap this up. Every good thing has to come to a conclusion.
Every
And
good thing
so
has to come to an end.
this is going to wrap it up for the 5 greatest funk ballads of all time, which we brought you 20 and then some bonus picks. So Juliana, Scott, and Ricky, this is a time when a little wrap up of final thoughts, or if there's something you want to promote, feel free. So Juliana, go for it.
I would say I've got the Hollywood Post and Fly World podcast coming pretty soon. So please link up with me on Instagram at Juliana on Beat, JulianaOnBeat. And if until then, you can catch me rolling down Sepulveda or PCH singing Switch songs at the top of my lung.
Another one, I'll call your name, all the Switch stuff too. Yeah.
And they'll never be on the list, but I didn't get to the point of bringing the record out.
I thought y'all would tell me they were too pop R&B for this conversation, but hey.
No,
They'll never
Switch.
be.
Yeah, that works.
Different.
All right. Thank you, Juliana. Ricky, what do you got
Thank
for
you.
final words?
Final self-promotion. The History of Funk, Fridays, 10 p.m. Pacific time, kpfa.org. If you're in the Bay, I'm teaching music history class at summer session at UC Berkeley.
Yay.
Look that up. Berkeley Summer Sessions starts July 8th, maybe. And yeah, keep the funk alive.
Fantastic. Hey, Scott Galloway, what do you got?
scottgalloway.net. Go there and check out, a lot of my older stuff.
I just checked this out, man. What's up with this? I didn't know this is that cloth one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh my goodness. They gave me like less than 2 weeks to do that essay, man. It's super long. Of course, I didn't get Sly, but I got Cynthia, Greg, and Jerry, and a couple of other people. Amp Fiddler also on that. But no, that's it. scottgalloway.net. I do have some things coming up, but not quite ready to pop the balloon yet.
Very good. Well, with that, I hope that everybody enjoyed this edition of the Jam Fans Forum. Check out the description of this video for links to the songs we talked about. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video, as well as subscribe to the channel. Drop your own personal choices for the 5 greatest funk ballads of all time into the comments, and also tell us what other categories you'd like to see covered on this show. The next time around, we'll reveal the picks for the top 5 most underrated funk albums of all time. For now, as always, this is Scott Dr. J.X. Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one. Everybody, peace and funkiness.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Another fun one. Welcome to the club,
Yes.
Juliana.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right.